everyone, and welcome to the daily newspaper analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So please pardon us for the first thing that because of some technical glitches, we could not upload the TNAs, that is the newspaper analysis, for the previous 2 days. But today we have a compilation of all the news points that were there in the previous days. So firstly, we'll be covering in our editorial that has been taken from the Indian Express that talks about the banning of two-finger test for a rape victim that has come up through Supreme Court. So we'll discuss it in detail. Then we'll move forward with the news update and legal news for the day. So in this article, we will be discussing that the Supreme Court held on 31st October that the two-finger test on rape victims was a sexist procedure and it only re-traumatized the patient. Basically, what happens is that when there is a rape victim, to make sure, so this used to be a kind of a conventional basic test that used to take place, that to ensure that the actual rape took place, two-finger test used to take place, which means that if two fingers could pass through the hymen or the vagina of the woman, it would mean that sexual activity had taken place. But this is actually not only just sexist, but also very inhuman as well, because this will ultimately re-traumatize the patient or the victim who had already gone through a lot during that incident and would be re-traumatized with these kinds of tests to come forward. For your clarity, let me mention that the meaning here of a sexist procedure is something that is very, partial towards one, or partial towards or partial against a particular sex, or like that is the gender, male or female or otherwise. So the two-finger test lies on the belief that a torn hymen, that a woman was habitualized in sexual activity and that she could not thus be raped, a phenomena which legal scholars call the medicalization of the consenti, that is giving more precedence to the body of the women than to their voices. So this really was a test that had to be thought upon, as the two-finger test was completely, coming out to be sexist and also against the right to privacy and dignity of women as well. So the Supreme Court, in the case of Lilu Aka Rajesh versus State of Haryana, banned the two-finger test back in 2013. But unfortunately, this practice is many a time still followed till date. Soon after this, elaborate guidelines in conjunction with findings of Justice J.S. Verma Committee report were issued by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare that clearly banned the two-finger test. Now, here is a very important question for you all, that we can see that Justice J.S. Verma Committee report is associated with which topic? So it is about the rape victims, or the two-finger test when it comes to the rape victims. So after 8 years since the adoption of the guidelines, the two-finger test is still prevalent, that exactly we were talking about. The court has now stated that any medical practitioner who conducts the two-finger test shall be charged with professional misconduct. But ultimately, it has to be reported, and that, we need to be very vigilant for that purpose. And it is clearly deduced that there has been a negligence on behalf of the executive to ensure that the ban was actually reflected in practice. That means that the laws that were created or the guidelines that were made, they should be put into real execution of the real in the real world. To this end, the executive must show an empirical approach that holds doctors accountable and addresses the issues of implementation on this front. Let's see, what do we have for news update today? Firstly, India's 53rd Tiger Reserve. So Uttar Pradesh is set to have its 4th Tiger Reserve and the 53rd reserve in India. I think we've previously covered this as well. So you can go through this. Secondly, Northeast's first fish museum. So a fish museum, the first of its kind in the Northeast, would soon be built in Arunachal Pradesh. Fisheries Minister Tage Taki has said recently. So the museum in the Northeast region with all fish species across the district from Tawang to Longding, to attract the tourists, fish lovers, and the museum will also serve as a training center for the fish farmers. So this is really a good step in this direction. Thirdly, new defense secretary, seasoned bureaucrat and a 1988 batch Indian Administrative Service officer Giridhar Armane assured charge as the new defense secretary. Before assuming the office, Armane laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in New Delhi and paid homage to the fallen heroes. Fourthly, International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. So the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists is a UN-recognized international day observed annually on 2nd November. That was yesterday. So the day draws attention to the level of impunity for crimes against journalists, which remains extremely high globally. Next, 7th India Water Week, Department of Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation, Ministry of Jal Shakti, presents 7th India Water Week. It will be held at the India Expo Center in Greater Noida. Sixthly, country's most sustainable oil and gas company, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Maharatna, and a Fortune Global 500 company, has once again achieved the #1 rank in the Indian oil and gas sector for its sustainability performance in the 2022 edition of the S&P Dow Jones Sustainability Indices Corporate Sustainability Assessment Rankings. Seventhly, SAIL signs an MOU, that is a Memorandum of Understanding with the AAI under RCS UDAN Scheme. So SAIL, if you know the full form, let me know in this comment section below. In 2018, it's a very simple one though, had signed a Memorandum of Understanding for the use of its own airport under the UDAN Scheme. The UDAN Scheme basically is Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. Basically, the purpose of the scheme is to make the flight fares affordable for all the people in the country. So this for the operation of commercial flights. Now, SAIL has signed the O&M contract with the Airport Authority of India through its Rourkela steel plant to facilitate the commencement of commercial flights from Rourkela. Eighthly, Steel Man of India, Jamshed Irani, passes away. So Jamshed Irani, the former Tata Steel Managing Director, who was called the Steel Man of India, passed away at Jamshedpur. He was 86, and he was associated with Tata Steel for over 4 decades, starting out as an assistant to the director in charge of R&D, that is research and development. He was known as the Steel Man of India, but do you know who was known as the Iron Man of India? If you know, pause this video and let me know in the comment section. Let's see what do we have for legal updates now. Firstly, non-reporting of sexual assault despite knowledge is a serious crime, says the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court observed that non-reporting of sexual assault against a minor child despite knowledge of the same is a serious crime. This was held in the case of State of Maharashtra versus Dr. Maroti, son of Kashinath, Pimpalkar. Secondly, rape victims' statement under Section 164 of the Criminal Procedure Code must not be disclosed to any person, including the accused, till charge sheet is filed. So the Supreme Court reiterated that a rape victim statement under Section 164 of the CrPC cannot be disclosed to any person, including the accused, till the final report of the charge sheet is filed. This was held in the case of X versus M. Mahinder Reddy. This was all for today. Thank you so much for staying tuned with LawSikho. If you wish to download the PDF of today's slides, you can join our Telegram channel. The link is there in the description box below, or you can also scan this QR code that you can see on your screen right now. Thank you so much.